So SEO, or search engine optimization, refers to techniques that help your website rank higher in the natural or organic search results. And this basically helps more people who are looking for your product or service find you. All right, so let's jump right into those SEO basics. So what we're really asking today is, how does Google decide? This is a screenshot for a search for internet marketing software, and you'll see Hubspot is down there in the fourth organic result. And so how does Google decide that, HubSpot's number 4 and not number 1 or not number 100? Well, there's a bunch of factors. And what we like to do to make things simple here at HubSpot, because we're all about taking data and doing analysis and then making it simple for our customers, is to break it down into two pieces. One is the on-page factors. And this is basically things that are happening on the page of your website, things that you have complete control over. So this is basically the content of those web pages, both things that a human can see and also some things that a human cannot see. And that's about 25% of the whole picture. Now, the other 3/4, the other 75%, is actually mostly related to off-page factors. So these are basically links, and we're going to talk a lot about links because links are super important to SEO. All right, so now we have a feel for this. Let's jump in, and there's one other topic I want to cover, which is black hat versus white hat. There's you'll hear these terms as you dig more into the SEO world. White hat is basically, think of it as just honest, upfront, trustworthy kind of search engine optimization. And the basic principles here are producing good content, getting people to link to that good content, and then using on-page SEO factors to accurately describe your content to the search engines. Now, black hat techniques are not a good idea. And they're not a good idea because if you get caught by the search engines doing them, you're going to get banned, and you're going to see a huge drop in your traffic, and you're going to have a really, really hard time convincing them to ever let you back into their index. And this is basically buying links or using a network of sites to create reciprocal links, copying content from others, and just basically anything that seems like cheating, it probably is. So just remember to keep those things in mind, and we're big fans of only doing white hat here at HubSpot, and everything I'm going to recommend to you today is only a white hat technique, so they're all very safe techniques. All right, the foundation of SEO really starts with keywords, and keywords are so important because it's how search engines operate and how they work. So everything to do with search engines is keyword driven. So picking the right keywords is super important to a great SEO strategy. All right, and there's 3 vocabulary words that I wanted to cover before we talked about keywords too much. The first is search volume. And search volume is the number of people per month or any time period that are searching on a given term. So you can imagine that, today we've got Roger Clemens, a famous baseball player, is testifying in front of the U.S. Congress. Today in Google, there's probably a lot of searches for things like Roger Clemens and baseball testimony and things like that going on in Google. There's probably a lot less searches going on in Google for something like HubSpot. And so that search volume is going to be important. And our goal is, everything else being equal, to have a higher search volume for the keywords that we're attacking. The second term that I want to talk about is relevance. And this is basically how important or how relevant that search term is to your business. So for a company like HubSpot, for instance, terms like internet marketing or internet marketing software or search engine optimization are very important terms to our business, and those are very relevant. Things like marketing are somewhat important, but they're a little bit less relevant because they're more general. And then terms like, sales or business are even less relevant. And then things like, again, Roger Clemens or Congress or U.S. election are not relevant to us at all. All right, and then the final term, I'm going to talk a little bit about difficulty or competition as well. And this is basically talking about how easy or hard it's going to be to get listed on the first page of Google for a given search term. So think about it as like competition or competitiveness or a degree of difficulty. So certainly some things are pretty easy. So if you think about taking a test in school or something like that, there's certain classes that I'm sure you had that were easier than other classes. And those classes, it was a lot easier to get a high grade. And then there were other classes that were maybe a lot harder. And those classes, it was much more difficult to get a high grade. What we want to do is for each keyword is have some understanding of how easy or hard it's going to be to get a good grade which in SEO means getting onto that first page of Google. So what we're going to talk about a little bit is how to approach that and how to think about it, but that's going to be a really important concept. So again, our goals are going to be, 1, looking for terms that have a high search volume, 2, words that are very relevant, so they have a high relevance to our business, and then 3 is actually a low level of difficulty, so we want terms that are going to be easier to get found to that first page of Google. All right, so search volume, let's talk about that first one. What you really want to know is how many people are searching exactly that term per month. And sort of all of the data is guesstimated. And what we're going to talk about is some of the ways to get that data. So you can use, there's a tool within Google AdWords, for those of you who do pay-per-click within Google. There's a tool that shows you some sort of relative search volumes there. That's one way. There's also another free tool out of this website called SEO Book. And that's a great way as well to sort of, get some other sort of free sort of keyword information. And then finally, I would, obviously this is sponsored by HubSpot, and I work at HubSpot. We have a great tool that sort of does this and gets you this data automatically at HubSpot as well. But it's not a free tool. It is something that we actually charge for. All right, so now that we've talked about some ways to get sort of that search volume, the second thing that you really want to understand is relevance. And what you want to do with relevance is really, you're the person that knows your business best. So you're really going to be the one that sort of understands this, more than anyone else. So I would really recommend to people that you sort of make your own estimates, but then certainly track your results and see how accurate they were. So as you start to get traffic on a given search term, measure how many people are actually converting into leads or customers from that search term. And then you'll have a sense of sort of if your estimates were right or wrong, and you can adjust them over time. And also, if you do happen to be running some pay-per-click ads, you can also use that as a proxy. So the conversion rate on your pay-per-click traffic by keyword can be a good way to do some estimates of what the conversion rate will be for SEO. Now, what I found is that the SEO conversion rate can actually be different for a number of reasons, because I think people's mindset is a little different when they click on a paid link versus an organic link. However, it's a great place to start if you do have some actual data from a PPC campaign. All right, difficulty or competition. This is one where it's actually subject to a fair amount of debate, but I have some strong opinions on this. What you really want to know here is how easy or hard it's going to be to get to the first page of Google results. So if there's 10 million search results for a given search term, in my opinion, you really don't care about any of those search results except for the top 10. And that's because no one, I want to say no one, but almost no one in the entire world goes to the second page of Google. People will typically, if they don't like the results on the first page, they're going to do another search. So all of the traffic typically goes to that first page of Google. All right, and so there's a number of ways to sort of assess the difficulty here. The first is to look at, basically the best way to do it is to understand the SEO strength of those websites that are currently ranked in the top 10. And that's really hard to really measure, because what you really want to understand is, what does Google think of those sites? And Google's algorithm is private and sort of difficult to reverse engineer. So one way that you can think about it is, you can look at the page rank of those top 10 websites. It's not a bad way. It's not a bad proxy to sort of get to that. And I'll talk a little bit later about what page rank is. The third thing that you can look at, too, is the cost of AdWords. It gives you some sense, but in my opinion, it's not a great metric, because it talks only about the competition on the paid ad side. It's actually not necessarily measuring the competition on the organic search side. So it's a little different, but it is an interesting proxy, and it's actually some data that you can get, so it's not a bad way to do it. Some people will actually use the number of results. So when you do a search in Google, it'll tell you that, here are the first 10 pages out of 1 million pages that I found about this search. And some people say, oh, well, the more, if it's millions or 10 million or whatever, the higher that number of pages that they find, that will be a more competitive search term. I could not disagree with that thinking more. So I think that's just the wrong way to approach it. I don't actually think that number actually matters at all in terms of SEO. So just because you found more pages about the topic, really all you care about is getting listed in that first page. So I actually don't think that any of the other results, the other 9,999,000 results, really don't matter. So it's really only the first 10. So I don't advise people to do that, but some people do that as a problem.